Hey guys, Tinkerverse here. Um, I realized that there's nothing really that I compared this to other than the stock Hotend in my original video. I'll be comparing this to a Gulf Coast Robotics Micro Swiss clone, which is pretty much the same as Micro Swiss. It's maybe even better in some people's opinion. It's pretty much the same thing. Um, so the Gulf Coast is obviously supposed to be a direct replacement for the stock Hotend, right? It fits exactly in the printer. You just bolt it on, put in the Bowden tube, and then bam, you're ready for printing after you've assembled this. With this one, however, you need to do a lot more. You need to reroute wires for this special thermistor. There's special nozzles. This one just takes standard nozzles. Um, it has um, the stock Hotend is about the same size. This you can interchange these two freely. They'll have little to no difference of the nozzle drop down. I wouldn't go so far as to say that you could just swap this with this and then print with the same level, but it is nicer considering this drops down a few more millimeters. See, so these two are lined up right here. This is at least, what is that? Like a quarter of an inch longer than the stock and Gulf Coast Hotend. So now a couple of problems that I've run into the Gulf Coast one is that it works fine, right? You can have PLA, you can have ABS, you can have whichever ones you want. It doesn't really matter. But with this part right here, this doesn't seat exactly right on there. So if you're taking this apart, back and off and on, off and on, and especially if this part, make sure that you tighten it while it's hot before you run any filament through it, because what happened with this one is I did not do that, and now this heating block is pretty much just unusable now. What's nice about the Gulf Coast is that you can use the stock heating block, which is nice, especially because this heating block, just the block itself, is kind of a poor design. I don't really like it. First of all, you have the titanium heat break, whatever, it's fine. But then also it has that flat spot, that extremely flat spot. There's almost no taper right there. The heating module space is, I don't like it because it ends up just bending this whole aluminum heat block, because while this is titanium, this is aluminum, so it just bends it. It just, whatever, just bends it. Then your heating module is stuck in there. You need to chew this up, which is what ended up happening. My filament kept on getting stuck in there. It used to pool up right there, but that's kind of at fault for that's kind of my fault, because I did not put it together right. I had to heat it up while I was putting it together, which I did not do. Now this spider Hotend, it comes pre-assembled, which is contrary to this. This came in a bag, which for 20 bucks, that's pretty good. Now for this came in a box, which I expect. It's a $50 Hotend, and it's compatible with V6 and Ender mounts. It has these special nozzles. Now volcano nozzles may work, but I'm not sure. They'll drop down your nozzle a bit. You probably have to re-level, which isn't a huge deal, but it does kind of suck. So just a thing to keep in mind. These are also nickel plated and are wear resistant, so they will print abrasive filament, it comes with a 0.4 and a 0.6, like I talked in my review. Now, one thing that I noticed that on my last print, I don't know if it was my last print or my last couple prints, but there was this pool of filament right up top here, which also just ended up happening to this one too at one point. Now, this isn't a huge buildup, but it's enough to wonder if it's sealed properly, if there's like stuff leaking out. There obviously is. Also, one other thing that I saw about this, these screws in here that keep the hot end on, they're very different from the stock screws. How they mount, right? So, if we take this apart, these don't stop, as far as I know. There's no manual for this. I don't know about this hot end. I did take it apart before filming the first video, and I think that's what kind of happened. But whenever I put this on and I leave a little space like this, right? That's what it's on their ad. Shows it like this, you know, whatever. And I put in these screws. They either tighten it down to where that's touching right there, which is no, you don't want to do that. That'll just make heat creep, right? Or if I leave them slightly loose, this will turn just slightly, and the screws will actually fall out, and they'll sit in this silicone, and it'll turn like this. There will be nothing there. So while it's printing, it'll just turn. Another thing to note with this one is that it cannot print any PLA whatsoever with stock hardware, especially with the V2. The fan duct that comes down is not big enough. It actually, the fan duct for the original comes down and blows right underneath, right on the nozzle. For this one, it just blows on the side of the heat block. It does nothing. So I've only been able to print with ABS on this somewhat successfully. Now, I have printed out some PLA things, you know, this 3D Benchy, which was at 240 millimeters a second, which probably just had cooling issues and extruding issues, as someone pointed out. The stock stuff isn't meant to do that fast. I tried to print out this longer fan duct. That didn't work. This was a file on Thingiverse that I just found. I wouldn't call it a replacement. It doesn't really fit in my my setup right now, which is unfortunate. And if somebody's hot end cooling fan duct melted. Now, another thing to note with this is that it's much bigger than, like I kind of already mentioned, that it's much bigger, not just longer, but actually bigger. This thing just barely fits in the V2 stock housing. I was thinking about printing out another housing, fan housing, dual 410, but I just decided not to. Just, you know, I don't want to deal with that right now. Which, the original hot end is really easy to take apart. I understand it really well. Like, you just pop in screws. This stops at a certain point, and that's that. There's the heat break right there. You can tighten them down as hard as you want. This one, I'm not so sure about. I don't want to just go all, just tighten it down super tight, because then it would have a lot of heat creep up here. These do go down all the way. What's nice about both of these, actually, more so this one, is that they don't clog very much. This one has clogged, mostly during the end of its lifespan, because I didn't put it on properly. There's some burnt on plastic on it in there. And but they don't clog very easily. And I've been able, especially with the micro Swiss, I've been able to just switch out filaments. You know, ABS to PLA. It's just easy. You just pull out the ABS, you heat it up, you put through some PLA that's extra liquidy at the ABS temperature, and then you put it down to PLA temperature. You're good to go. And then vice versa with the ABS. It's just really simple and easy. Now I have, even with it all that tightening that I just did, it still has this like wobble to it, which I'm not sure why it's caused, but I can't talk to Creality about it because they are on the Chinese holiday festival until the 7th. So thanks Creality for dropping a product and then bye. That's fully tightened, but I don't want to print it like this because, you know, heat creep. Another thing to note is that when you take this apart, you need to readjust your Z offset. Not necessarily re-level, but Z offset is required because otherwise it will either be too high or it'll start scratching your bed. Which I don't really get what Creality was getting at here. I don't get this. These should just be threaded in here. This should just hold on to it. And I'm sure they are, because I can't pull it apart, but... anyways, so I hope that's satisfactory for this comparison. So overall, I would say that the Micro Swiss is probably a better option for beginners. Nobody who really wants to mess around with like rerouting cables or anything, as is the case with this one. It's easier. You can just pop in another nozzle just like the stock hot end. Doesn't clog very often if you put it together right. And the only thing that I really don't like about this is this little heat break right here. After a while it just doesn't want to work. And then this heating module mount, I don't like it because it clamps down, like I said. And yeah, so this one is like a beginner hot end, right? Which does pretty well for like, you know, just general hobbying. And this one is more of like, you want a hot end that that I don't know, has more support to it, because as far as I know, you can't get any real support, especially from Gulf Coast, because they just make replicas of these hot ends. So Creality has a full-on like live chat for this, which again isn't up right now, which sucks. But anyways, I think that's all for today. So until next time, see ya.